Right guys, another day and we're back for another episode of the Championship Transfer Rumour Roundup. We've got plenty to go through in today's video. It is also absolutely boiling when I'm recording this video, so make sure to drop a like if you do go on to enjoy. Drop any stories down below that we miss and we'll mention them next time. But without any further ado, let's jump in. So we have had confirmation of QPR signing Richard Elcanous from Wycombe. The initial fee being worth just under 3 million, the overall package being worth around 5 million with add-ons included. And Wycombe also have a pretty hefty sell-on clause as well. But all things considered, I think this one's a fantastic deal for QPR, obviously. They banked a really good fee for Charlie Kelman earlier in the window, selling him to Charlton. And to get a player like Elcanous in, who I think will instantly improve that starting 11, is a real statement of intent from QPR. I think they've made some good deals during the window so far. But based off Elcanous' potential and what he could become in the future, dare I say, this is probably the best deal they've pulled off yet. Obviously, plenty of other Championship clubs were interested. You had Swansea, Preston, Leicester all in the mix. The fact that QPR have beaten all those clubs to his signature, in a similar way that they managed to fend off a lot of Championship interest for Poku as well earlier in the window. Another great bit of business there by QPR. We've seen Middlesbrough completing a deal for Dutch forward Sonjay Hansen. They had been linked with him for quite some time, but have got this deal over the line with Boro reportedly paying a fee of around about £3 million. He looks fairly versatile, can play sort of anywhere across that forward line, on either flank or through the middle. He's 23 years old. We knew that Boro were in need of more firepower. Hopefully, he'll look to address that issue. Speaking of Middlesbrough, we've also seen a big departure as well. Rav van den Berg has joined German club Cologne. There have been plenty of interest in the Dutch defender throughout the summer transfer window, so I think we all expected him to leave at some point. In the end, it's Cologne that have got a deal over the line. That one's said to be worth around about €13 million, so around about £11.2 million that Boro will be receiving for him. Listen, when they originally signed him, they brought him in for a fraction of that price, and after some good development there at the Riverside, have flipped him for a sizable profit. That's a big chunk of change there going in at Boro, and like we've been saying for the last few weeks, we expect them to start gearing up and get a bit more busy in these final weeks of the window, and that sale, you'd imagine, would speed a few deals up. We knew that Muric would probably be leaving Ipswich this summer one way or another. He's headed out on loan to Sassuolo for the season. Another Championship goalkeeper that's headed out on loan is Watford's Daniel Bachmann. We knew that he didn't really have a long-term future at Watford, certainly not as their number one anymore. He's joined Spanish side Deportivo La Coruña for the season. But since we last recorded, those are some of the done deals which have gone through in the Championship. Now, without any further ado, let's jump into the rumours. So the big news story going around the Championship right now relates to Ipswich's Nathan Broadhead, because Wrexham reportedly have a deal in place worth £10 million. Now you'd imagine the initial fee that Wrexham will be paying for Broadhead will be a bit less than that figure, and with add-ons it'll probably take it up to that 10 million figure. But serious money we're talking about here. It would be Wrexham's transfer record, which they've already broken during this transfer window so far. From an Ipswich perspective, obviously they're losing a very good player in Broadhead, but he is someone in the last year of his contract that they're selling for a sizable profit, and they've got several other players who can play in his position as well. Wrexham have had some serious firepower to their ranks during this summer transfer window so far, and someone like a Broadhead in the prime years of his career, 27 years old. Listen, they've got money to spend, why not spend it while you can? An exit has always been on the cards this summer for West Brom defender Torbjon Hegim, and a deal is in place with Bologna in Italy, with this deal also said to be worth in the region of £10 million, and West Brom will also have a sell-on clause as part of the deal as well, so we'll further benefit from his development if Bologna sell him for a profit in a few years' time. Another one where obviously West Brom will be sad to lose him, but they're flipping him for a sizable profit after just 12 months of development at the club. But it's not just players going out of West Brom, they're also working on incomings, one of them being Christian Bielik. Looks like a deal is close for the Birmingham Star to join the Baggies, with it said to be worth an initial fee of around 1 million, could rise to 2 million if West Brom are promoted. Bielik's someone who I've always really quite liked, obviously someone who's had a couple of big injuries in recent years, but seems to have put them behind him now. Good versatile player, can play as a defensive midfielder or as a centre-half. By all accounts, looks like someone really good behind the scenes in the dressing room as well as a bit of a leadership figure. So this one ticks a lot of boxes for West Brom, I think. It's not going to be a deal that breaks the bank. From Birmingham and their perspective, I guess they just can't offer Bielik consistent first-team football this season because of all the other players that they have in his position right now. So while I'm sure Blues fans will be sad to see him moving on, from a player's perspective, I just think he'll get more opportunities at West Brom this season. We also know from a Blues perspective as well that they have been linked with quite a few defenders in recent weeks as well. So I'd imagine they'd be pushing ahead, maybe trying to get a Ben Davies back from Rangers or something like that, let's say. And West Brom will be further bolstering their depth with the addition of Manchester United youngster Toby Collier, who looks set to join the club on a season-long loan. Now, we spoke about Collier in, I think, last time's video. There has been a bit of Championship interest in him all summer. Previously, we've had both Hull City and Sheffield Wednesday sniffing around a loan deal, but by all accounts, it looks like West Brom have beaten off all the competition to get that loan deal done. Swansea have a deal in place to loan Brighton youngster Maliku for the season. This one looks like a really exciting deal for Swansea. He spent last season out on loan with Sturm Graz, where he got plenty of experience, got to play in the Champions League last season and impressed. Looks like a really good all-rounder. Off the ball offers quite a lot and quality on it as well. By all accounts, he's someone who's very highly rated within Brighton. Very excited to see what he's like in the Championship. We've had a really interesting transfer saga over this last week relating to QPR and Pape Messabar, who's currently on the books at Schalke. Now, by all accounts, this deal looked to be almost done and dusted a few days ago. He was through the door at Loftus Road having his medical with the club. However, after then failing that medical and having a player like Richard Kone come on the market, QPR then pulled out of the deal, and so it will no longer be going through. Bar would have been, I think, an interesting option for QPR, but there's no doubt they've got a better player in Kone for the long term. Everton are still interested in Leicester City winger Abdul Fatu, although according to the latest reports, the Toffees are unwilling to meet Leicester's valuation on the player, and so are looking at alternatives in that position for the time being. Fatu is someone who we expect there to be plenty of interest in between now and the end of the window, but unless someone meets Leicester's valuation, he won't be going anywhere. Southampton immediately rejected West Ham's opening offer for Mateus Fernandes, with the Hammers' opening offer believed to be worth in the region of 30 million, whereas Southampton value him closer to 50 or even 60 million. From a Southampton perspective, they're in no immediate rush to sell right now. Obviously believe the player has a bright future ahead of him. Financially, if they want to keep him around for the Championship this season, they can very well go ahead and do that if no one meets that valuation. So for the time being, it looks like West Ham have moved on to alternative targets. Leicester City's Elcanous being one of those targets for West Ham. Now, Newcastle had been heavily linked with him in previous days, but by all accounts, they've now pulled out of this potential deal. Now, he does have a release clause in his contract with Leicester, which I believe expires tomorrow. Along with West Ham, you've also got the likes of Leeds United, Crystal Palace and RB Leipzig, who are all reportedly monitoring him. And of Leicester's big players still at the club, he seems the most likely to leave because of how much interest there is right now. Going back to some Southampton news for a minute, the club are willing to offload midfielder Will Smallbone this summer, who doesn't seem to be a part of Will Still's long-term plans. However, he won't come cheap for any potential Championship clubs looking to do a deal, with Southampton valuing him at around about £8 million. Let's wait and see if anyone bites at that valuation and goes in with an offer. And sticking with Southampton for a minute, they're reportedly in talks with Coventry over a deal for midfielder Jack Rudoni, with Coventry valuing him at around about £15 million. Rudoni obviously coming off the back of his most productive season yet. He scored 10 goals and got 12 assists in the Championship last season. Would leave quite a void if he was going to leave Coventry at this stage. They'd have to go into the market in search of his replacement quite late on. But that's a potential big money deal that we could see over the next few weeks. The Lewis Travis situation with Blackburn Rovers is continuing to get even more messy. We know that Travis has told the club that he wants to leave this summer. He's to the final 12 months of his contract, and it's Derby. That's his most likely destination at the moment. Now, Derby have gone in with an opening offer of 1.5 million, but obviously Blackburn value him higher than that. From Travis's perspective, he's reportedly told the club that he'd rather leave and get Blackburn a transfer fee than going on a free next summer. And while Blackburn have offered him a new contract, the supposed deal that's on the table from Derby has been described as life-changing money, so Derby offering him a much more lucrative contract than Blackburn have put on the table by all accounts. But as things stand, Blackburn still don't deem Derby's bid to be acceptable yet. Whether Derby up that valuation and bid in the next few days we'll have to wait and see. By all accounts, Travis really wants this move. Eustace obviously wants the reunion with his former player, and Blackburn are caught in a bit of a tricky situation here because they don't have a great deal of power with Travis being into the last 12 months of his deal. It looks like Abu Kamar is on the verge of leaving Hull City. We've had months of speculation relating to Kamara. Obviously, Portsmouth have been quite prominently interested, but have never been willing to pay the sort of money that Hull would demand him. Ultimately, from a Hull perspective, this is just a move that hasn't really worked out for either the player or club. 12 months ago, Hull paid around about 3.5 million to get him out of Norwich, and it looks like they'll be receiving that sort of fee to sell him as well, so at least they'll recoup their money on this one. Just a shame that Hull fans never really got to see the best of him. He just never seemed to settle there, did he? We know that Sheffield Wednesday are now eligible to sign players either as free transfers or bringing in loans. The latest player they've been linked with is former Leeds United captain Liam Cooper, who is currently available as a free agent. Was most recently playing in Bulgaria, but obviously most known for his stint at Leeds United. I think it will be this type of profile that Wednesday probably are looking at quite a bit. You know, players over the age of 30 who haven't been able to land a club up until this point of the window. Someone like a Cooper would come with plenty of experience and come in and help a very youthful core that Wednesday are obviously working with at the moment. And another experienced centre-half available on a free is former Brentford defender Ben Mee. Didn't play a great deal of football in the Premier League last season, only 2 starts for Brentford, but in a similar vein to Cooper, someone who come in with plenty of pedigree and experience. He's 35 years old, but I think would be a really good asset in the Championship. But there you have it, guys. That will now wrap it up for today's video. Thank you very much for tuning in. If you did go on to enjoy, make sure to drop a like, and anything that we missed off today, make sure to get it in the comments down below. Other than that though, guys, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.